IVM.
IVM Likes is an IVM production, and if you like cool, nerdy discussions about pop culture and more, then do check out Geek Fruit. It's where all the nerds of the town come together and they sit and chat about sci-fi, comic books, and TV shows and movies. It's a whole lot of fun. So do check out Geek Fruit on the IVM podcast app or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hey, this is IVM Likes. My name is Navin and Abbas. Today, joining me in the studio is with drum rolls, Sharanya Subramanya.
Yay!
She's back, y'all. And we also have Abbas moment. No drum rolls for
No
you.
drum
Yes,
roll for
no
me,
drum
yes.
You were yawning before the show
Just
started.
violence, sad violence.
Sad
in the back.
violence. The other day, like Farhad is my co-host for keeping it to a segment, and he saw Abbas. He's like, this guy needs a massage for real. You look very stressed out, Abbas.
I didn't even know you had a co-host now.
See,
You should
that's
listen to
why.
the show.
Your stress is so much, it doesn't allow you to like look beyond your shows.
I should, yes.
So speaking of stress, we all were
There is no segue there.
we all were stressed out this weekend about Oscars, and for me it was like a very close call because I was following up with all the movies this year,
Yeah.
and some of the nominations were not even making sense there. I genuinely believe that some of them should have been there instead of the other. We'll talk about that. But before we go into that discussion, today we have a round of recommendations for you as usual. Sharanya, as a guest of honor, why don't you take it away?
Sure. I'll start with a TV show. I'm going to recommend a show called Crashing. That's in now, just finished season 2, I think, this weekend, while the Oscars was going on.
Yeah.
So obviously nobody was watching HBO, I guess. But season 2 is really good. That's why I want to recommend it. Crashing is a show written by a comedian called Pete Holmes.
Yeah.
There are a lot of shows that are written about comedians trying to be comedians. And there is something to be said for how much you can take out of that format. But why I like Pete Holmes' show is because they really get into the process of being a comedian.
Yeah.
If you know Pete, and he's very popular already because he's done a lot of shows. He has his own podcast. He has one of those very, he has a brand of his life, which is like, his wife cheated on him.
Yeah.
And he talks about it incessantly. Like, it's genuinely a little bit like, dude, you gotta stop.
Yeah.
Like, he almost milks his own life for comedy so much that to a point it got really annoying. And season 1 of the show starts exactly like that.
Yeah.
It's him, he's a Catholic boy, Christian born, like really believes in God, loves his parents, believes in monogamy. The only woman he's ever slept with is his wife. And then one day he finds out that she's cheating on her, and he doesn't even have a job or anything, okay? He's just dependent on her.
Yeah.
He's trying to be a
Doing
comedian.
comedy, yeah.
And then obviously when she leaves him, he, is figuring out how to live. He crashes on R.D. Lang's couch. He meets other comedians, has to like stand in the corner and try and sell tickets to his comedy
It's
shows.
called barking.
Yeah.
So that fortunately is not come to India, but we can
Not
imagine
yet.
that happening.
Yeah.
When you don't have a comedy audience, you can't perform. So
Yeah.
if you want to get stage time, you have to go and get 5 people to come with your voucher.
So they have to come with a flyer that says your name on it, and
Yeah.
if you get 5 people, at least you can get
So
a
maybe
slot.
at 1 a.m. in the night you'll get a spot.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is that Pete is always an optimistic,
Right.
God-loving dude.
Yeah.
So he really believes in it. He works hard. He's not a mean guy, and he deals with the business of comedy in a way that shouldn't be dealt with. Like he could be smarter, but he's not, because that's who he is. So season 1 has a lot of like cameos from Sarah Silverman. Bill Burr, I think, is in season 2. There's a bunch of comedians that show up. If you like comedy, and if you like, oh, look, that comedian, it's a great show for that.
TJ Miller's also.
TJ Miller's in it. But season 1, though, has a little bit of this feeling of, where is this going for me when I watched it the first time?
Yeah.
Because I know Pete Holmes' story, because I've heard him say it so
Yeah.
many times, that it feels like, is there going to be more than this? But I really enjoyed what I learned about comedy there, which was like, at one point he gets a job as a opening act for like reality shows like Dr. Oz.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
That's hilarious.
Rachel Ray's cooking show. So they need a guy to come before and pump up the audience. So he gets that kind of job, what that entails. And season 1 was alright. It was good. But
That's a good gig also. That whole plotline is hilarious to watch.
Sarah Silverman's episode is really good in that show.
Yeah.
But season 2, they really, they got much better with the writing. Character development is so much better. Like, they're trying to now, in season 2, force Pete to realize that he's also not the nice guy he thinks he is all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of this, I'm such a nice guy, I would never be mean to you, comes from a place of like this closed upness of, I think this is right. It's a very proud ego kind of thing that he's dealing with, because he thinks he's better than everybody else for not doing these things. He like in the last season, he goes on a roast, and he while he also kills at that roast, he feels bad when he's attacked about something personal. And the idea is that, you think you're so much better than all of us that you didn't mean the meanness. Whereas if I meant that mean joke, you couldn't take it. Yeah. It's genuinely it's well done this season, especially. All the episodes are on Hotstar because it's an HBO show.
Yeah.
And it is genuinely good. If you have a little bit of time and patience with it, it gets really good. And lots of comedians on it, so which is nice. Lots of comedians doing their act on it.
Okay.
Because it's based obviously around stand-up comedy so much. Usually, when shows are based around stand-up comedy, they cut out actual jokes that the comedian would do. Yeah. But that's not the case. Aparna Rancharla is in it. She does a whole act at one point.
Okay.
Bill Burr does a big piece of his set. It's pretty nice that I'm sure they wrote it for the show.
Yeah.
But it feels like it is their own stuff.
Okay.
It feels like their voice and it feels like, that's a Bill Burr joke.
Yeah.
So it's quite nice. I am recommending Crashing.
Nice.
Yeah. Not to be confused with Netflix's Crashing, which is a show about some teens who live in a hospital or something.
Really?
Yeah. There are two crashings.
But the Hotstar is also crashing because CY is bad.
Yeah, quite literally.
So I watched season 1 of Crashing and I was really not okay with the ending when the whole baptism thing was happening.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is not going anywhere for me.
Season 2 gets into it more.
I'll check it
Especially
out now.
the whole idea of how comedians get big from college shows.
Yeah.
So they have a committee, like a national entertainment college entertainment committee where you have to go audition, and they obviously have rules like you can't talk about abortion or sex or whatever, things like that. And they audition you, and if you get that, you get to go to a bunch of colleges. That's how Mike Birbiglia became famous, because he went to so many colleges, and that's how you build a base. But then you also you have to do a different kind of comedy for it. You can't do your exactly the same set. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
This little trivia here, this college committee kind of thing that people have for colleges. So Harvard's committee head was Natalie Portman.
Ooh.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so she booked Jimmy Fallon once for some gig. And then
She's still paying for it.
Yeah.
They're doing cameos on it. What I'm recommending today is a short story by Leo Tolstoy. It's an 1885 story called What Men Live By. I have a very fond memory of the story because I first read it when I was in 7th grade. It was in our Bal Bharati books. But it was unlike any other short story because all of them were very preachy and annoying. And I had a friend when I was in 6th grade who was in 7th, and he was one of those very well-read kind of guys. He used to read a lot of stuff, and we were those book exchanging pals when we were kids. So he told me you guys you have to be in 7th standard now because the story is so good.
You have to be in 7th standard now.
Yeah, so you can enjoy the story. One of the small stupid things that kids do. Yeah. So I borrowed his Bal Bharati book and read the story way before I actually went to 7th grade. So by the time that that chapter was read out in class, I knew everything by rote.
Oh God, how annoying, Navin.
I know, and I was a stupid, annoying kid. But the story stuck with me for the longest time because years later I watched on Christmas. My mom was playing God TV, and this was playing in clear animation, and then it hit me. It's actually about religion and everything. When I was reading it as a kid, I just saw it as a euphemism for a lot of things. So the story is about this one angel who's dropped down from heaven because he did not willingly take a woman's life when she was giving birth to 2 kids.
Okay.
Okay, and that's the whole plot line basically because he's found by a guy called Simon who's a cobbler and who has no money, but he sees him naked next to a chapel and says, okay, you know what, I'm going to have mercy on this guy. I don't have any food or money, but I'll take care of him. He takes him to his house where his wife also is bitching about how she can't feed him himself and how can you bring one more man in.
Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah.
It's coming back to me slowly.
Yeah, right. And then he looks at her and she looks at him and then she realizes something special about him. So they don't know that he's an angel until the plot line develops.
Okay.
But the whole story is that God sends him down to as punishment, but also to learn 3 things. And that's the whole point of what men live by. What's the virtue of men and what defines them? How they'll have unconditional kindness for you. And it's mainly focusing on humanity and how, even though when it seems lost in the worst times, it's always there for you. There's always, the mother who loses her kids, because the kids are still alive and the mother is eventually killed. But then another angel comes and takes her life. But there's still, a woman who really takes care of those 2 kids and they come back to their only shop to get shoes done. And Michael learns how to become a cobbler and becomes a very proficient cobbler. One of the plot lines in the story is that there's a man who comes, a very wealthy man comes to the shop to get a shoe done, right? And it's a Russian shoe where he's he's gotten a very good felt and everything, nice leather, and he's I want to get the best shoe done, and you're the best shoemaker in this town, so make me one. And Michael just stares at him and looks at him, but slightly ajar. So when he leaves the house, he starts working on the leather, and it's very expensive leather, right? He takes it and makes a bushtashi, which is like a shoe for the dead people.
Okay.
When you wear it for a funeral. And so then like Simon sees this and loses his shit. He's like, dude, like now he's going to come back and he's going to kill us because he's very wealthy. He's like, don't worry, I had a whim. And then the guys, the chauffeur comes back and says, don't make the shoes, he's dead, he just had an accident. And all this while Michael could see the angel of death standing behind him. And you know, like I would like just still goosebumps, see, like just thinking about these stories. So yeah, it's a very beautiful short story if you look at the long and short of it and the learning that you have from it. You know, that we can't be ahead of ourselves, we can't be, all we are right now is who we are, and we just have to be kind to each other. That's the whole point. So that's my recommendation, What Men Live By.
Leo Tolstoy. Awesome.
Cool. I'm recommending a romantic comedy, guys. It's from 1967. It's called Barefoot in the Park.
But everything okay, Abbas?
No, yeah, this is
you
a
made
really
accusations about him being stressed and all.
Stressed and all. Yeah, this is
trying to change his image.
This is my go-to film when I'm stressed. It stars Jane Fonda and Robert Redford as a newlywed couple who move into a new house. You've seen the movie?
I have seen bits of it, yeah.
Okay. It's a very funny movie. So they move into a new house. Robert Redford is a hotshot lawyer on the rise. And the events of the film take place in roughly about a day or a day and a half.
Okay.
So it starts from when they move into a house. At the same time, Robert Redford gets this new case that he has to work on. They get into a house, this newlywed wife, Jane Fonda. Jane Fonda is amazing in the movie. She's very charming. She's very funny.
Now.
She's always been
She's like 80 or something.
Yeah, so
75.
there's no... they move into the house. Robert Redford has not seen the house. So it's based off a play, so it's kind of like a sitcom situation where they enter the apartment and the lift is not working, so they have to climb 4 stories. There's no furniture in the house, the roof is leaking, but Jane Fonda is trying to make the best of it because she's a new bride, and Robert Redford's character is stressed because he has a new case to take care of. At the same time, he doesn't want to disappoint his wife, and amidst all of this, Jane Fonda's mother turns up because she wants to meet the newlywed couple. They find out there's a neighbor who lives upstairs who's this weird Russian/Turkish weird guy. You can always smell food from his house. Then her mother and the neighbor start an affair while all this is happening. So there's a lot of things happening. All of it is very funny. And then it culminates into a very happy, mushy kind of there's a argument that occurs between the husband and the wife, and then spoiler alert, in the end they get back together.
Do we see any of the case?
No, we don't. So there are only phone calls happening. So there are these running gags. Like, so the lift is not working. So the Jane Fonda has ordered a couch. So the couch guy has to come climb 3 stories up, and then he remembers he's
Pivot.
Yeah. So maybe that's where they got it from. So he's forgotten something. He has to go downstairs. So these running gaps keep happening. It's almost a laugh a minute kind of thing going on. I was just very surprised by how sharply it was written. Like each line, every alternate line has a very sharp.
As far as I remember, is a lot like a sitcom only. Like it looks like a studio setup where the camera's moving frames, but actually looks like going top to bottom.
It's more a play, right? It's set up as a play.
It's based off of a play. Apart from the last few scenes, which are shot outdoors, the entire movie is done almost indoors. But yeah, a lot of sitcoms have borrowed from this, because now when you see this movie, considering it came out in 1967, a lot of modern sitcoms pick from it.
I don't know why you said that. My head just went Babi Ji Ghar Pe Hai for some reason.
In some weird way,
but
maybe.
That is also that kind of a sitcom, though. Except dirty.
So watch it for the chemistry between Robert Redford and Jane Fonda.
You didn't name the movie, so that would help.
Barefoot in the Park.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't paying attention.
So check it out. It is on Netflix right now.
On Netflix.
It is on Netflix. So yeah, Barefoot in the Park.
So thanks, Abbas, for the recommendation. That was our round of recommendations. Quickly, let's wind it up once again.
I recommend Crashing on HBO.
Barefoot in the Park, the movie.
Okay, and I recommended the short story What Men Live By Leo Tolstoy. We'll take a small break now and we'll see you on the other side.
Shunyavan, 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 Shunyavan.
$1 billion acquisition. Another copycat startup got formed.
No, the tech world in India is surely moving double the speed of this voiceover.
Tune in to Shunya One every Tuesday to catch us talking to the smartest people we know on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Welcome back to IVM Likes. We are still here in conversation. So Oscars happened this past weekend while we were, sleeping and and I didn't wake up this Monday.
I totally woke up this Monday. Yeah.
I didn't. Last 2 years I haven't. Otherwise I always used to.
This is the first time I've been so invested in it because this is the first time I watched all the nominated movies. I mean, only the Best Picture nominations. I don't have time for like Florida Project.
Yeah, I was like,
and
did
stuff.
you watch the animated short subject also?
Mudbound, I did not watch.
So me too. I watched all of them, but I was still not like I'll wake up kind of thing. I was like, they'll update me when I wake up. And
They'll update me. They'll let me know.
and then Hotstar is there with its glitchy UI to always help me out. But the Florida Project was actually a good movie.
I'm sure.
I don't know
Florida
why.
Project was my favorite movie of last year,
Yeah?
and I really wanted William Dafoe to win for supporting actor.
Yeah, I was hoping that he would win. That was my prediction in the IVM daily episode with
I'm
him.
surprised Lady Bird didn't win anything.
Yeah.
That was a little upsetting. I thought at least they would win something. Like, it was like, since once Get Out won screenplay,
Yeah.
I was very happy for that, but I was like, there should be some recognition for Lady Bird, which there was none. I mean, the post doesn't deserve any recognition, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just recognized for being recognized. Even Phantom Thread really didn't, even though there was a chance of Daniel Day-Lewis winning, it was bleak. Like, and the movie was not.
Like a consolation Oscar just to because you're retiring. So
That's not that doesn't seem fair anyway. Also, not that I thought Gary Oldman should have won Best Actor. By the way, like that was a little. I just don't understand what he did in his performance. That was interesting because if you're going to put on that much prosthetics and I mean, there's so many versions of Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
Like there is really nothing interesting about it. Darkest Hour was a snooze fest. Even though I thought Dunkirk was not actually that bad. Even though honestly, I've just come to the realization this year that I don't care about World War movies.
Yeah, man.
I just don't care about it.
Like either of the World Wars?
Yeah, no World War movies matter to me. From any, like, I feel like we've read about it and seen it so many times, no version of it is interesting anymore.
But I still think World War One has gotten the raw end of the stick. We've still seen a lot of World War II movies.
But really, like, what would have...
Does Wonder Woman count as a World War One movie?
It is.
It does, right?
It's
Yeah,
like totally...
I guess it is.
I mean, like, they have now done everything with that genre, right?
Yeah.
From like,
So are you guys saying we should have more wars so that we can...
I'm sure we can make movies that are not about war at all.
I think Kurukshetra needs representation.
which is interesting because they actually paid tribute to the troops at the Oscars this year.
There were so many. Okay, let's talk about the winners and the losers first, and then we'll talk about the ceremony as a whole and whether we enjoyed it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Award-wise, I think everything was predictable.
Yeah, this set was like down pat.
Gigantic envelopes, so there were no mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised when they gave original screenplay to Get Out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought it's too cool a movie for Oscars to give an award.
I think that's
to.
one of the reasons. So somebody was talking about how I read somewhere, like how Oscar ballots work differently from other things, right? Because they have to vote by ranking of movies and stuff.
Yeah.
And it also depends on when the movie comes out. So because Get Out came out so early in the year, it came out in Feb.
Yeah.
There are a lot of the people who are voting had seen it in Feb and thought it was okay. But then there was so much being written about it that your image of it builds higher and higher.
That's true.
So it became like a brave thing to give an award to later on in the year. The impression of it being a brave movie became big later on. Whereas stuff like Dunkirk, which when it came out was so big, but lost steam halfway through the race.
Yeah, very soon.
Yeah, very soon. Because, and that's the thing with Oscar nominations is also like there's a lot of impression of how the movie was.
Yeah.
You'll see something and you'll forget about it a couple of months down the road. Or something will be like, this is going to be the biggest movie of all time. Like, this is amazing, it's amazing. And then it won't win or it won't be that good.
Yeah. Dunkirk, though, like, technically, a lot of awards went to Dunkirk because of their sound mixing and audio.
It was a visually beautifully done movie.
I really wanted Baby Driver to win one of the sound awards because I thought it was done really well.
Its editing also was really
was also very well.
So, it was kind...
Do you guys think that, like, you know how they always say that the Oscars do not award commercially successful movies? And that's always true. Like, none of these movies, I mean, they're not commercially successful, but they're also not something popularly... Like, they're not a popular vote. Not a big majority of the movie watching audience go watch Darkest Hour or Phantom Thread. Do you guys think like this year Logan was nominated for adapted screenplay, which is still surprising because, but like Christopher Nolan, who's nominated this year, has never won anything at the Oscars. Dark Knight was never nominated. Actually, Dark Knight was nominated.
So yeah, they pulled a Dark Knight with Dunkirk this year because Dark Knight won all the technical awards the year it was nominated.
Exactly.
So Slumdog Millionaire swept everything.
So everybody's thanking Nolan, but Nolan's like, where's my Oscar, bitch?
Jimmy Kimmel made a joke about how Black Panther will not be nominated next year.
Yeah.
I will not win any Oscars, which makes sense. I think that like commercially successful films don't really get. You guys think like at some point superhero movies will become big enough to win things? It's not like Star Wars won this much this year either. Like, barely anything.
I don't think that will happen because there is still, I think, a large section of the Academy which considers superhero movies as a level below what pure cinema counts for.
I feel like that should have changed by now. Don't you
the
think?
lines are slowly blurring now.
Are they?
Yeah, with Logan coming forward and even Star Wars being nominated like now, slowly.
But Logan is nominated only in one category and is nominated because it's so different from other superhero movies.
That's true. Yeah.
It's really like a break from the genre.
I mean, again, let's take Black Panther for example. It should definitely be nominated for costume design and for visual effects and all of those things.
But the movie's not great.
Does it move you as? I think that's the thing when it comes to.
See, what I noticed in all these nominations this year, they have very simplistic plots. Like every single movie that came out,
it's a one-line definition plot.
Yeah. But with these Marvel movies, we don't have that. Or with any of the blockbusters, we don't have that. They're like putting in so many elements to draw the crowd.
There's a lot of ensemble. It's an entertainment thing. It's not here's a misogynistic man who makes clothes.
Or
really simplistic things like that.
But I think it's a good thing that they don't, because see, that's the one complaint I have with the Indian film industry is that the same movies that make tons of money are the same movies you're handing out awards to. So at least in Hollywood they make that distinction that let's give out awards to these movies that probably didn't make a lot of money but artistically they deserve to be awarded.
That makes sense.
Fair.
So I'm kind of torn on that. I want superhero movies to be actually recognized as an art form, but at the same time I'm okay with them not.
So is the idea that if you make an artistic movie, you should expect to not make money, but you'll win some awards?
No, see, Get Out made money. Get Out was a success. Shape of Water also wasn't a failure at the box office. So there will be those odd films that
Get Out didn't even release in India, no?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think it did.
You know what we should all do? We should all become like Amir Khan. Like make commercially successful movies that are also thought-provoking and then not show up for the award show. That's the best thing you can do.
I think otherwise, overall, everybody who won was like, nobody was upsetting per se, so that was good. Very happy with Shape of Water winning best movie. At least it's better than 3 Billboards winning, because I saw 3 Billboards.
I did not like exactly.
I did not like
we all
watched.
Moment of clarity right now. You said that we have judged the movie before even watching it, and we watched the movie.
I did not like it
without any judgment, and I hated it.
Okay, I didn't hate it. There was a lot of problems with it. What am I supposed to get from the movie? Oh, look, this awful racist cop has a redemption factor. Look, he's going to go help her. That's not nice, guys.
And look, if you build up this character to be this douchebag, that guy's throwing people out from the window,
and the scene where he throws a person out the window is set to like a rock music. Like that's not a heroic move, you know.
Yeah, and I would have still dig that. If that was like his character definition, I would have dig that. But one single thing in the hospital and now he's got a new leaf altogether.
Yeah. Exactly. And he apologizes to the white guy he threw from the window. Go apologize to all the prisoners you probably tortured.
Exactly.
Also, even her character, when right up in the beginning Woody Harrelson tells her that there is no lead, there's no witness, there's nothing to the case anymore. Okay, so her anger after a point feels like there is no, what is the point? It's not like the community is turning on you because you're black. Like if she was black, it would make sense that she's fighting for justice for her daughter, and the community is not supporting her. The community supports Woody Harrelson because he says in the beginning that they've tried everything. After that, setting a police station on fire is not cool, guys.
Exactly, and the poor guy just knocked himself out, had a beautiful wife and daughters. What about him?
I didn't get the point of Peter Dinklage's character. Why was he in the movie?
All of it was very shoehorned, man.
Yeah, I did not like it.
It was like they were kind of making the movie at when, like, for example, the deer just showed up in the set one day and she started talking to him and they're filming it probably. It's just like, you don't know. But I'm glad Sam Rockwell is now getting his due, but like this guy has been around
I don't
have a problem with Frances also. Her speech was great. Her performance is good.
Performance is good. We have a problem with the roles that were, the choices the roles made. So yeah. But I still wanted William Dafoe to win. I think he was really good.
But even better than William Dafoe, the mother of the child, what's her name? She's an Instagram model.
in Florida Project. Yeah, I don't remember her name, but yeah, she
so
was
Sean
also
Baker
very
basically
good.
put out an ad on Instagram, and she was picked off Instagram to play.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So and the little girl, Brooklyn Prince.
Yeah,
Oh
she's
my god, I really
good.
loved James Ivory winning because he wore a shirt that had Timothy's face on it. I was like, oh my god, that is so cool. He was really cool.
Actually, this Oscar ceremony, there was Sridevi in the
Yeah,
memoriam
and Shashi
section,
Kapoor.
Shashi Kapoor, and James Ivory mentioned Ismail Merchant.
Yeah, of
in
course,
his
because
speech.
he's worked with him for so
So
many
a
years.
little represent, even though in a sad way, because all three of them were mentioned because they passed away.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
So let's talk fond favorite memories that happened over the celebration.
This year's ceremony, the monologue was okay. I'm happy they
I
touched
think-
on the things they are supposed to, but I don't expect that much from the Oscars anyway. Like,
so I found it to be. I mean, the monologue should still be funny. I just don't think it was funny enough.
it was funny.
It
Really?
was-
You didn't think it was funny?
It was
I
all
don't
right,
think it was
really.
funny.
Like, I mean,
I understand that all these male hosts have this like pressure now to perform in a way that is also representative. Also
And
talks
also
about time out,
woke.
time up.
okay. I think Seth Meyers did a good job
Yeah,
already.
he
So I
did.
think,
But he was very much on the offensive, whereas JV was not. Like he
Yeah.
very much was like, yes, we acknowledge that this is happening.
Yeah.
We cannot ignore it, and obviously none of them should ignore it. That's fine.
Yeah.
Also, God, I hated that whole thing about them going to the theater, and I
I loved
hated it
that. I
last
don't know
time
why you
also.
guys hated
I
it.
tuned out totally
Dude,
when that
I'm
happened.
watching a preview of Wrinkle in Time. And they were stoned
Yeah, but
clearly.
then-
As when they were like, there's a smell of marijuana. People were just stoned watching a movie. Why did you disturb
And they
them?
got to see movie stars while they
it's
were
weird.
stoned.
It's like if you were really stoned and watching A Wrinkle in Time, and then Ami Hammer walked in with a hot dog, that
Yeah.
would be so creepy. I would freak out.
yeah, exactly. And just like every year now, what gimmick can we do, sort of thing.
Last
Yeah,
time,
but-
actually, though, this time's gimmick was better than last time's gimmick, which was where they took that bus
The
and had these
tourists,
people come in.
yeah.
Oh.
So that's Kimmel's thing. He wants to put these multi-millionaire movie stars in awkward situations with normal people.
I think it's the other way. It's like normal people. Look, movie stars, how amazing is your life? It's very much, look, normals walk
But
into the
they are
Oscars.
in LA, so I'm sure they're looking forward to meeting movie stars.
What I really like this year, and like overall, what I got a gist of is what like now the whole border wall and everything in time of Trump,
Yeah.
there was a very strong Mexican
Yeah.
and South American representation
Yeah.
from Chile as well. Like when Daniela Vega won, I was so
Yeah.
happy, and when she came and spoke about her thing, and with like the smallest thing was when Coco won.
Yeah, Robert Lopez.
Yeah, when Robert the whole team came up,
Oh.
and Gael Garcia was there, and Oscar Isaac was there. He was announcing the award. He walked away, and then when Gael Garcia came on stage, he came running towards him and hugged him, and then went away. Like, it was a very sweet little thing that happened in the background. But I was just like,
But the Coco, the song that won.
Remember
Me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Robert
Robert
Lopez.
Lopez, yeah.
He's got the second EGOT.
yeah,
He's won
really?
already an Oscar, Grammy, and Tony and
Emmy.
and then this is the second round of all four.
Oh, yeah.
Can you believe that?
He's killing it.
He
But
did Frozen's Let It Go last time,
Right.
which won
Yeah.
Grammy and Oscar, and then he did something else. He did a children's show that won the Emmy.
Okay.
How
Tony
amazing
as well,
is that?
because he does Broadway as well.
Yeah, how cool is that? He's only 43 years old.
Yeah.
He could win more stuff.
But I didn't precisely like the music of Coco so much. I was okay with it because for the kind of culture that they were bringing, it was kind of like
Yeah,
lackluster.
I was totally
I'm also
all up for
kind-
Sufjan Stevens, you guys.
Yeah, man, that performance.
Oh my god. So sexy, so emo, I love it.
But I'm kind of getting tired of the Oscars just being given out to the Pixar movie that came out that year.
Yeah.
Like there was The Breadwinner in that same
Breadwinner was
category,
pretty
which I
good.
think
Even
was a
Saint Vincent
very
was
good
good, man.
movie.
I was going to I thought about this when I was thinking about today's episode. That Saint Vincent took like 5 years to make, with like one frame, every frame being like a.
That was really well done. But Coco was good too.
It was
It's
good.
good. I watched both of them twice.
If you
So
see, they've given out awards to The Good Dinosaur
Yeah.
and to some other
That was not
Pixar
deserving.
movies which
Yeah.
weren't deserved.
Yeah.
So it's almost like if a Pixar movie is in that
And-
category.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. That in that category, if
Yeah.
there's a big studio making a movie, that's
yeah,
mostly
then
going to win.
that's going to win.
That's unfortunate. How good was Tiffany Haddish, who wore the
Tiffany
same
Haddish
dress
should-
for the third time?
Should host the Oscars every year.
Her and Maya Rudolph.
I think
Yeah.
she should have got a nomination for Best Actress also, by the
Yeah,
way. She was
yeah,
very
yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
I don't know why she didn't.
But that is
And
again a movie that wouldn't
That's true.
Again,
and of
girls
course,
trip.
very real to wear the same dress because she's like, I spent so much money on this.
Oh, by the way, so Jimmy Kimmel's YouTube channel has uploaded Guillermo at the Oscars, and there's this hilarious bit where he's trying to interview Tiffany Haddish, and she sees Meryl Streep entering,
goes at
and
the
she just
bow.
runs out to stand in front of her, then comes back to Guillermo. It's hilarious.
She's everybody.
I'm always surprised that Maya Rudolph is married to Paul Sanderson.
I know.
It's just a weird combination.
This is the first time I actually noticed that, to be honest. Because I was like, yeah, Paul Thomas. Oh, why is she saying this?
Martin McDonough, who made Three Billboards, is dating Phoebe Waller-Bridge from Fleabag.
Okay.
Who wrote Fleabag and is the main lead in Fleabag. That's also pretty surprising.
Also, Chelsea Peretti and Jordan Peele. I didn't know they were.
What? They have a child?
They
have a child.
I didn't know they were married.
What? She was off that whole season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine because she was pregnant.
And they shot from...
That's because you don't follow her Instagram, where she's constantly posting, here's a painting of my husband, and so she's so funny.
Yeah, so I would like to say that eventually, for all that was happening on the stage, when Guillermo del Toro comes on stage and and the way he is excited about the childlike innocence to him, and I'm really glad for him that this year I'm so glad Shape of Water won, and everything that he's worked for has come true. I'm talking like he's my uncle, but I feel for him.
He's every fat guy's uncle.
What do you guys think of that little bit in the middle where they did like a video about diversity?
I think it was cool.
It was nice.
It was nice. Kumail was funny. It was nice.
He said that line that I've been watching.
Yeah, straight white dudes making movies about straight white dudes.
Now you enjoy my films. Now
you relate. It's not that hard. I've been doing it my whole life. It's true.
Exactly.
And he talked about how his wife wanted to make a website called Muslims Doing Fun Stuff, which is pretty funny.
All the collages and all the montages were nice.
I hated the montages.
Why?
I thought it was just too long, and I thought it was supposed to make me feel something I was not feeling.
The one with the dialogue one was really nice, with all the strong women characters, giving dialogue. I'm not going to be suppressed. And they were like,
makes no difference, because if you look at the statistics of how many women get speaking roles in movies,
that's true.
Bad.
There's also
Bechdel test.
Nobody passes the Bechdel.
An article that came out that the roles, the male roles which have won for Best Actor have been the victors, whereas the female roles which have won have been the victims.
Oh no!
So that's also something they need to look
horrible.
at. But I think the montages were done because this was like the 90th year, so they're like.
But up front they were like, oh, let's make this show shorter. And then they were like, here's a 30-second montage after every award. That was annoying.
Yeah.
Also, it's very irritating when they read the nominee's name out and then they play a clip and then they cut to their face. I'm like,
it is very long. I feel like there is a way to make it more efficient if they wanted to make it a snappier show. To watch, because it went on from 6:30 to 10:30.
Yeah.
That's too long.
Yeah.
I had to go to work. In the break, I would go make a toast and shit. It was really difficult.
But some of the breaks were long also, so you could do much more than that.
This Oscar wasn't very big on memes and stuff. Like, there was no...
what was really interesting this Oscars was the red carpet. Because Ryan Seacrest was on the red carpet. And there was that whole controversy about Ryan Seacrest.
Yeah.
So, I just don't understand. So, obviously, if you look at it within the context, they can't not have him on the red carpet because they have cleared him of all charges. But putting him on the red carpet is a super awful thing to do.
Even Kobe Bryant was...
he won, yeah. But the thing with the Ryan Seacrest thing is that they ran on a 30-second delay for the first time, the red carpet, because they were worried that if somebody says something about Ryan Seacrest, they can cut it.
Okay.
And there were lots of parts where it felt really awkward. One is, of course, that E has done nothing to change how they cover the red carpet. It's always the same.
Yeah. What are you wearing?
Yeah, completely banal rubbish. They could have changed it up, but they can't.
Yeah.
And the problem is now in this year, when conversation is important and when they're asking women about Time's Up and then cutting to Ryan Seacrest, it's just like, are you not understanding what you're doing?
Yeah.
And Ryan Seacrest wasn't given the main stage, like the main opening where he wasn't getting, like, apparently Juliana Rancic was in the beginning and they had to ask the celebrity if they would talk to Ryan Seacrest.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of them did skip Ryan Seacrest, obviously. So it's weird. And it's tone deaf.
Which means by next year he'll fade out. That's the whole point, right?
I know that.
I don't know. See, because the argument again here is they say they like investigated it and he was cleared. Should he lose his job over it? To be fair, he has like 6,000 jobs. And
that's what, he's everywhere.
He could choose not to be here.
Yeah.
He produces the Kardashian show. He's still on this season.
80-40 on
He's
radio.
on this season of American Idol. His radio show is still on. American Idol is coming back this season and he's still the host.
But then again, this is a guy who tried to high-five a blind person. So.
Really? What is this?
Yeah, it's a meme on internet. You haven't seen this?
I haven't seen this.
Yeah, he once tried to high-five a blind person.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought the Oscars overall were...
You know what else I like before you wrap up?
Yeah.
The winners who, I think they won for the documentary short, and they did the speech in sign language.
Yes,
I think that was really cool.
nice.
Yeah.
Even what was really funny was Lakers Stanfield, who had to run in and say, get out. And then he tweeted like, that was so weird.
Because he didn't know where to go out.
Yeah.
Kimmel is still talking and he's just like, what do I do?
And you know, the thing is, when they were doing the speech in sign language, all I could think was Sally Hawkins is totally getting this because she learned it for Shape of Water.
It's really fun to be on, like if you're on social media while the Oscars are going on.
Yeah,
now it's not like people are just making jokes. Even celebrities are making jokes.
Yeah.
So like when Ami Hamid on stage, Timothy Chalamet is like zooming into his face. Or what's his name? When Lakers Stanfield was on stage and then he got out, and as soon as he tweeted, that was weird. It was really funny. It got so like it came up everywhere because they were like, "How are you still tweeting?" And it was on delay, so he was still on stage when the tweet came out.
It's really amazing.
Yeah, I think like next. Like if you look at how obviously every year things have to change and stuff, but already this year feels a little better in terms of Greta Gerwig winning, being nominated.
All nominations being basically about Australia's people.
Kumail being nominated. I'm pretty sure Kumail is going to win an Oscar by next year.
Really?
He'll win something by next year. I think Gina Rodriguez will win an Oscar one day. I'm just putting a long-term bet on this.
Yeah, that's why I think Lady Bird, they're not holding on to giving it too many awards right now.
She'll win later.
When she
has time.
She has time.
Yeah, same with Timothée Chalamet. He's 22 years old, man.
Yeah.
He's the youngest nominated in that category. He'll win one day. He was the youngest nominated and Gary Oldman was the oldest nominated.
No, not Gary Oldman. Christopher Plummer was the oldest. Yeah.
Wow, in the same category, they had like the youngest and the oldest.
And again, the Plummer nomination was just like...
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, you showed up.
Here's
a nomination.
Anyways, so that's our thoughts on this year's Oscar Awards. 90th Oscars. It's been 90 years of white elitism finally scraping away, and now the others are taking over slowly. What will be the future of Oscars? We don't know. But if you have any thoughts, listeners, do tell us. We are IVM Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can follow us individually on Twitter.
At Abbas Momin.
At Sharanya_S.
I'm House of Narona, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
As you can see, we have a podcast listener in his natural habitat. Millions of years of evolution have led him to this point. He's on his way to work, and listening to podcasts makes his miserable day better. He will now head to work and use all his knowledge to communicate with other colleagues and possibly future mates. You can find more of his species on ivmpodcasts.com, your one-stop destination where you can check out all the coolest Indian podcasts. Happy listening.